Morgan Freeman, the legendary voice of wisdom and grace, has captivated us for decades with his powerful performances. But behind the calm and composed exterior lies a harrowing tragedy, a personal loss so profound it left even this Hollywood icon shattered. What happened to Morgan Freeman that changed his life forever? We'll uncover this heartbreaking story shortly, but first, let's talk about another icon whose life was filled with unimaginable highs and devastating lows. Number 20. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston wasn't just a singer, she was a phenomenon. With a voice that could bring you to tears and a beauty that radiated from every stage she graced, she seemed untouchable. But beneath the glittering surface of fame lay a life marred by heartbreak, addiction, and unrelenting pressure. From the moment Whitney burst onto the music scene in the mid-1980s, she shattered records with hit after hit, becoming the only artist to have 7 consecutive #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. But this unparalleled success came with a price. Raised in a world of gospel music, Whitney grew up in the shadow of greatness. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a celebrated gospel singer, and her cousin was the legendary Dionne Warwick. Yet, this legacy carried immense expectations that began to weigh heavily on Whitney's shoulders. Her personal life was a storm of turmoil. In 1992, she married Bobby Brown, a relationship that became a symbol of toxic love. Their volatile marriage, plagued by public spats and rumors of infidelity, only added to Whitney's struggles with drug addiction, a battle she often denied but couldn't hide. Despite her denials, the signs were there. A cracked, trembling voice in her later performances, a far cry from the powerhouse vocalist the world once knew. By the early 2000s, the tabloids had turned her life into a spectacle. From shocking interviews to cancelled performances, Whitney's decline was painfully public. Yet her fans clung to the hope of a comeback, remembering the soaring highs of I Will Always Love You and The Greatest Love of All. The tragedy culminated on February 11, 2012. Just hours before Clive Davis's Grammy party, Whitney was found lifeless in her Beverly Hills hotel room. She had drowned in the bathtub, with heart disease and cocaine use contributing to her death. Her daughter, Bobbi Kristina, would eerily face a similar fate just 3 years later, further deepening the tragedy. Number 19. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson wasn't just a superstar, he was a global phenomenon. A man whose music, dance moves, and influence changed the world. But behind the glittering spotlight and iconic, Moonwalk was a deeply tragic story that few truly understand. Michael's journey from child prodigy to the king of pop was riddled with heartache, betrayal, and unimaginable pressures. Born into the talented but strict Jackson family, Michael's childhood was far from ordinary. As the youngest member of the Jackson 5, he was thrust into the spotlight at just 6 years old. The world adored his talent, but behind closed doors, he endured harsh discipline from his father, Joe Jackson, whose unrelenting push for perfection reportedly bordered on abuse. Michael would later describe his childhood as a lost time, filled with pain and isolation. As he grew older, Michael sought solace in his music, creating some of the most celebrated albums in history, including Thriller and Bad. Yet, with fame, came relentless scrutiny. His changing appearance became a global obsession, his lighter skin attributed to vitiligo and plastic surgeries sparking cruel rumors. The world speculated endlessly about his private life, branding him Wacko Jacko. Even more devastating were the allegations of child abuse that surfaced in the 1990s. Though he maintained his innocence and was acquitted in court, the damage to his reputation was irreparable. Michael became a recluse, retreating to his Neverland ranch, a place once meant to recapture the childhood he never had. Tragically, on June 25, 2009, the world was rocked by the news of his death. A fatal overdose of propofol, a sedative administered by his doctor, ended his life at just 50 years old. The shocking revelation of his dependence on prescription drugs revealed the immense physical and emotional pain he had been hiding. Number 18. Tina Turner. Tina Turner wasn't just a rock and roll legend. She was a symbol of resilience, courage, and sheer determination. Her career spanned decades, filled with iconic hits like What's Love Got to Do with It and electrifying performances. But behind her powerhouse voice and captivating stage presence was a woman who endured unimaginable pain. Born Anna Mae Bullock in Nutbush, Tennessee, Tina's early life was marked by abandonment. Her parents left her as a child, forcing her to fend for herself. This longing for love and stability shaped much of her adult life and led her into the arms of Ike Turner. Ike wasn't just her musical partner, he became her husband and tormentor. Behind the glamorous duo's public success was a dark and violent reality. Ike subjected Tina to years of physical and emotional abuse, often humiliating her in private and public. In her memoir, Tina revealed shocking details of her suffering, including being beaten with shoes, having scalding coffee thrown at her, and enduring relentless control. In 1976, Tina made the brave decision to leave Ike, fleeing with just 36 cents and a gas station credit card in her pocket. She rebuilt her life and career from the ground up, becoming a solo icon and proving her strength to the world. But tragedy didn't leave her alone. In her later years, she faced heartbreaking losses, including the deaths of 2 sons, as well as severe health challenges. Number 17. Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman was more than just an actor. He was a beacon of hope, a symbol of strength, and a hero both on-screen and off. Known for his powerful roles in films like 42, Marshall, and most notably as T'Challa in Black Panther, Chadwick brought characters to life with a depth that left audiences in awe. But behind his radiant smile and inspiring performances was a secret battle he fought in silence. In 2016, at the height of his rising fame, Chadwick was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. But instead of retreating, he pushed forward, starring in some of the most physically demanding and emotionally intense roles of his career. What makes his story so extraordinary and heartbreaking is that he kept his diagnosis private, sharing it with only a few trusted people in his life. During this time, Chadwick underwent surgeries and grueling chemotherapy, all while portraying a Marvel superhero and filming critically acclaimed movies. His portrayal of Black Panther was more than just a performance. It became a cultural phenomenon, empowering millions and providing representation in ways Hollywood had rarely seen. Chadwick's death in 2020, at just 43 years old, shocked the world. Most had no idea he was sick, which made the loss even more devastating. In the wake of his passing, fans learned the depth of his resilience and courage. He didn't just play a hero, he was one. Number 16. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Motown, gave the world timeless hits like What's Going On and Sexual Healing, songs that defined a generation. His voice was pure magic, filled with emotion that could heal hearts and inspire movements. But Marvin's life, behind the music, was a story of pain, addiction, and betrayal that ended in a way no one could have imagined. Born in Washington, D.C., Marvin grew up in a strict, deeply religious household. His father, Marvin Gaye Sr., was a preacher, but their relationship was anything but holy. Marvin later revealed that his father's harsh discipline and physical abuse haunted him throughout his life. Fame didn't erase the scars, it only magnified them. As Marvin's star rose, so did his struggles. Behind his smooth voice and soulful lyrics were deep battles with depression and drug addiction. He sought refuge in his music, pouring his pain into every note, but his personal life spiraled out of control. Financial troubles, failed relationships, and paranoia pushed him further into isolation. In 1984, Marvin's life took a horrifying turn. After an argument with his father, Marvin was shot and killed by him in their family home. The shocking part? It happened just one day before Marvin's 45th birthday. The man who had given the world so much joy was taken by the very person who had caused him so much pain. Number 15. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday's voice was like no other, a soulful, haunting sound that could break hearts and stir souls. Known for classics like Strange Fruit and God Bless the Child, she became one of the most iconic jazz singers of all time. But behind her sultry voice and captivating performances was a life filled with pain, heartbreak, and persecution. Born Eleanora Fagan in 1915, Billie's early life was marked by struggle. Raised in poverty, she experienced neglect and abuse, even spending time in a reform school as a child. By her teenage years, she was singing in Harlem clubs, her raw talent quickly catching the attention of music lovers. As her fame grew, so did her troubles. Billie was one of the first black artists to perform with an all-white orchestra, a bold move that exposed her to relentless racism. She was often banned from venues, refused basic accommodations, and targeted for simply being who she was. Her performance of Strange Fruit, a haunting protest against lynching, made her a target for authorities who sought to silence her voice. Billie turned to drugs to cope with the pressures of fame and the trauma of her past. Her addiction led to multiple arrests, including one where federal agents stormed her hospital room as she lay dying of liver failure in 1959. She was just 44 years old. Her life was a tragic reflection of the injustices she sang about. Billie Holiday's voice may have been silenced, but her legacy as a fearless artist and symbol of resilience lives on, leaving a story that continues to shock and inspire. Number 14. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant wasn't just a basketball player. He was a cultural icon, a hero to millions, and the embodiment of hard work and dedication. With his unmatched Mamba mentality, he conquered the NBA, becoming one of the greatest players of all time. But behind the glory of 5 championships and countless records was a life marked by intense highs and tragic lows that stunned the world. Kobe's rise to fame was meteoric. Drafted straight out of high school at 17, he quickly became the youngest player in NBA history. His partnership with Shaquille O'Neal turned the Los Angeles Lakers into a dynasty, and his relentless work ethic made him a household name. But Kobe's life wasn't without controversy. In 2003, he faced a highly publicized sexual assault allegation which tarnished his image. Though the case was settled out of court, it revealed the complexities of a man idolized by many. Despite the challenges, Kobe rebounded in his career and personal life. He transformed into a devoted family man, pouring his energy into his wife Vanessa and their 4 daughters. After retiring in 2016, he pursued new passions, even winning an Oscar for his short film, Dear Basketball. Then came the unimaginable tragedy. On January 26, 2020, the world stopped when news broke of Kobe's death in a helicopter crash. Even more devastating, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna was with him, along with 7 others. The loss of such a vibrant, inspiring figure shook fans globally. Kobe's death was a stark reminder of life's fragility. His legacy as a champion, a father, and a man who inspired millions' lives on, but his untimely passing remains one of the most shocking tragedies in sports history. Number 13. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was a comedic genius, a man who could turn life's darkest moments into laughter. His groundbreaking stand-up routines didn't just entertain. They exposed raw truths about race, poverty, and human struggles. But behind the sharp wit and infectious humor lay a life marked by heartbreak, trauma, and self-destruction. Richard's upbringing in Peoria, Illinois, was far from ordinary or safe. He grew up in a brothel run by his grandmother, where his mother worked as a prostitute. The violence and dysfunction he witnessed as a child scarred him deeply. These experiences became the foundation for his comedy, but they also fueled his demons. As his career skyrocketed, Richard became a Hollywood icon, starring in hit films like Silver Streak and Stir Crazy. Yet behind the scenes, his personal life was crumbling. He struggled with addiction, often turning to drugs and alcohol to numb his pain. The most shocking moment came in 1980 when, during a drug-fueled breakdown, Richard set himself on fire. Running down the street with burns over more than half his body, he later described the horrifying incident as a suicide attempt. Despite the physical and emotional scars, Richard returned to the stage, using even this tragedy as material for his comedy. But his battles weren't over. In the 1990s, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a debilitating disease that gradually robbed him of his mobility and independence. Richard Pryor's life was a paradox of laughter and sorrow. He turned his pain into art, leaving behind a legacy of unfiltered honesty and groundbreaking comedy. But his story is a reminder of how even the brightest stars can be consumed by their inner darkness. Number 12. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke's voice was like velvet, smooth, powerful, and unforgettable. Known for timeless hits like A Change Is Gonna Come and You Send Me, he was more than just a musician. He was a pioneer, breaking barriers for black artists in the music industry and using his platform to fight for civil rights. But his life ended in a shocking and mysterious tragedy that still raises questions to this day. Cook was born in Mississippi in 1931, raised in the segregated South. His voice became his ticket out of poverty, and by the time he transitioned from gospel to pop, he was already a star. He wasn't just a singer, he was a businessman. He owned his own record label, publishing company, and masters at a time when few black artists had control over their music. But behind his success were whispers of trouble. On the night of December 11th, 1964, Sam Cooke was shot and killed in a Los Angeles motel. The details of his death remain murky and shocking. The motel manager claimed Cooke had burst into her office wearing only a sports coat, demanding to know the whereabouts of a woman he had been with earlier. She said she shot him in self-defense after a struggle. The story didn't sit well with Cooke's family and friends, who suspected foul play. Why would a man of his stature end up in such a situation? Why were there so many unanswered questions about the events leading to his death? Sam Cooke's death robbed the world of a voice that was just beginning to change history. To this day, his death feels as tragic and mysterious as it was senseless, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire. Number 11. Aaliyah. Aaliyah was more than a singer. She was a phenomenon, a trendsetter, and a voice of a generation. Her hits like Try Again and Are You That Somebody showcased her talent, while her effortless style made her a fashion icon. She seemed destined for a long, legendary career. But her life was tragically cut short, and the circumstances of her death remain heartbreaking to this day. Born in Brooklyn and raised in Detroit, Aaliyah's talent was evident early. By the age of 15, she had already released her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, which was both a breakout success and a source of controversy due to her illegal marriage to R. Kelly, who produced the album. The marriage, annulled shortly after, cast a shadow over her early career, but didn't stop her rise to stardom. By the early 2000s, Aaliyah was at the top of her game. She had just released her critically acclaimed self-titled album and was venturing into Hollywood with roles in films like Romeo Must Die. But on August 25, 2001, tragedy struck. After filming a music video in the Bahamas, Aaliyah boarded a small plane to return home. The plane, overloaded with equipment and passengers, crashed moments after takeoff. All 9 people aboard were killed. Aaliyah was just 22 years old. The crash sent shockwaves through the music world. Fans mourned not just the loss of a beloved artist, but the unfulfilled potential of someone who seemed destined to redefine music and film. Aaliyah's death remains one of the most devastating tragedies in entertainment history, leaving behind a legacy of talent, beauty, and what could have been. Number 10. Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson wasn't just an actress. She was a force of nature. Her roles on stage and screen weren't just performances. They were declarations of strength and dignity, often showcasing the struggles and triumphs of black women. But behind her incredible talent and the awards that filled her shelves, Cicely's life was one of resilience against heartbreak, obstacles, and personal sacrifice. Born in Harlem in 1924 to Caribbean immigrant parents, Cicely grew up in poverty. Her mother, a devoutly religious woman, disapproved of her decision to pursue acting, even kicking her out of the house when Cicely refused to abandon her dream. Alone and with little support, Cicely worked tirelessly to carve out a place for herself in an industry that often relegated black actresses to stereotypical and demeaning roles. Her determination paid off when she became the first black woman to star in a TV drama, East Side, West Side, and earned critical acclaim for her role in Sounder. But success came with sacrifices. Cicely remained fiercely private, often shielding the world from her personal pain. Her tumultuous relationship with jazz legend Miles Davis, marked by his infidelity and substance abuse, left emotional scars that she carried for years. Despite the challenges, Cicely never compromised her principles. She famously turned down roles she felt demeaned black women, even when it meant long periods of unemployment. Her resilience was rewarded with a career resurgence in her later years, earning accolades well into her 90s. Cicely Tyson's passing in 2021, at the age of 96, left the world in mourning. Her story is one of perseverance, dignity, and breaking barriers, a legacy that inspires us all to rise above life's hardships. Number 9. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge was a trailblazer, the first black actress to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress. Her beauty and talent captivated audiences, but behind her radiant smile was a life marked by pain, betrayal, and heartbreak that would shock the world. Born in Cleveland in 1922, Dorothy's childhood was anything but glamorous. Raised by a single mother, she was pushed into show business at a young age. Along with her sister, she performed in the Wonder Children, a traveling musical act. But the glamour of the stage masked the darker truths of her life: abuse and relentless pressure to succeed. Dorothy's rise to fame came with her groundbreaking performance in Carmen Jones, 1954, a role that cemented her as a Hollywood icon. Yet, even as she broke racial barriers, she faced systemic racism that limited her career. Studios refused to cast her in leading roles that weren't defined by her race, and she often found herself sidelined despite her immense talent. Her personal life was equally tragic. Dorothy endured a tumultuous marriage to dancer Harold Nicholas, who left her to raise their disabled daughter Harolyn alone. Financial struggles plagued her as medical bills piled up. Her second marriage to a controlling and abusive businessman ended disastrously, leaving her emotionally shattered. On September 8, 1965, Dorothy's life came to a tragic end. She was found dead in her apartment at just 42 years old, the victim of an overdose. Some speculated it was accidental, while others whispered of suicide, a heartbreaking end for a woman who had fought so hard to shine in an unforgiving world. Dorothy Dandridge's story is one of brilliance and tragedy, a woman who broke barriers but paid a heavy price, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire and sadden. Number 8. Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier was more than just an actor. He was a symbol of change, breaking racial barriers in Hollywood at a time when segregation ruled America. With films like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and In the Heat of the Night, he became the first black man to win an Academy Award for Best Actor. But behind the polished image of a Hollywood trailblazer lay a story of quiet struggles, deep sacrifices, and immense pressure. Born in 1927 to tomato farmers in the Bahamas, Sidney's early life was far removed from the glamour of Hollywood. He moved to the United States as a teenager with nothing but a dream. Struggling to find his place in a racially divided world, he worked menial jobs and taught himself to read and speak fluently, essential skills for the career he desperately wanted. When he broke into acting, the weight of representation fell squarely on his shoulders. He was often cast as the perfect black man, roles that carried an almost saint-like image, erasing the flaws and complexities afforded to white actors. Behind the scenes, he struggled with the immense responsibility of being a symbol for his race. Though Poitier lived a long and celebrated life, he often spoke of the loneliness that came with being a pioneer. He once admitted, "I felt like I was out there alone." Sidney's passing in 2022 marked the end of an era, but his legacy as a quiet fighter for dignity and equality remains unshakable, leaving a story that inspires and humbles us all. Number 7. Etta James. Etta James was the queen of soul before the world even knew what soul music was. Her voice, raw and electrifying, gave us unforgettable classics like At Last and I'd Rather Go Blind. But behind the timeless songs lay a life filled with turmoil, addiction, and heartbreak. Born in 1938 in Los Angeles, Etta's life was chaotic from the start. Her mother was just 14 when she had her, and Etta never knew her father. She was passed between caregivers, yearning for stability she would never find. Despite her troubled childhood, her talent for singing became undeniable, and by her teens, she was performing on stage. But fame didn't bring happiness. By the 1960s, Etta was battling a heroin addiction that consumed much of her life. The glamorous image of a star was a mask for a reality filled with arrests, failed relationships, and stints in rehabilitation. Even as she achieved musical greatness, she struggled to maintain control of her life. Her later years were no less challenging. Health issues, including Alzheimer's and leukemia, took a heavy toll. Etta passed away in 2012, just days before her 74th birthday, leaving a legacy of music that endures, but also a cautionary tale of how the brightest stars often burn the fastest. Etta James's story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a reminder of how talent and pain often walk hand in hand. Number 6. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was a dazzling entertainer, a man who could sing, dance, act, and charm like no other. He was a star of stage and screen, a key member of the legendary Rat Pack, and one of the most versatile performers of all time. But behind the glitz and glamour, Sammy's life was a constant battle against racism, personal demons, and the crushing toll of fame. Born into a vaudeville family in 1925, Sammy's childhood was anything but typical. By the age of 3, he was already performing on stage. His talent was undeniable, but so were the hardships. As a black entertainer in a segregated America, Sammy faced relentless racism. He was forced to sleep in cars or janitors' closets because hotels refused him a room, even when he was headlining the show. In 1954, tragedy struck when Sammy lost his left eye in a car accident. Despite the devastating injury, he returned to performing just weeks later, proving his resilience. But life didn't ease up on him. His interracial marriage to Swedish actress May-Britt in 1960 ignited a firestorm of controversy, leading to public backlash and even death threats. Sammy's personal life was further strained by addiction. His relentless work schedule and pressures from Hollywood led to heavy drinking and drug use. By the 1980s, his health began to deteriorate. Diagnosed with throat cancer, Sammy's voice, the tool that had brought him fame, was silenced before his death in 1990 at just 64. Sammy Davis Jr.'s life was one of incredible talent and immense struggle. His story reminds us of the heavy price of breaking barriers and the resilience required to shine in a world that often tried to dim his light. Number 5. Nina Simone. Nina Simone was more than a musician. She was a force of nature, a voice for the voiceless, and a beacon of power and pain. Known for hauntingly beautiful songs like Feeling Good and I Put a Spell on You, Nina's talent was unmatched. Yet behind her mesmerizing performances was a woman struggling with inner demons, societal rejection, and an unbearable weight of expectation. Born Eunice Kathleen Wayman in 1933 in Tryon, North Carolina, Nina's genius was evident from an early age. A child prodigy on the piano, she dreamed of becoming a classical pianist, but racism blocked her path. Rejected by prestigious institutions like the Curtis Institute of Music due to the color of her skin, her classical aspirations were shattered. Heartbroken, she turned to jazz and blues, a pivot that would redefine music forever. Despite her success, Nina's life was riddled with heartbreak. She used her music as a weapon during the civil rights movement, writing fiery anthems like Mississippi Goddam. But her activism came at a cost. She was blacklisted by the industry, her career nearly destroyed because she refused to stay silent. Nina's personal struggles were just as intense. She suffered from bipolar disorder, a condition that went undiagnosed for years, leading to erratic behavior that alienated friends and colleagues. Her volatile marriage to Andrew Stroud, who became her manager, was marked by physical and emotional abuse. As her fame dwindled, Nina fled America, living in self-imposed exile in countries like Liberia and France, where she lived in relative obscurity. Financial troubles, loneliness, and declining health haunted her final years. When she passed away in 2003 at the age of 70, the world lost a genius whose life was as tumultuous as her music was beautiful. Nina Simone's story is one of brilliance and heartbreak, a tale of a woman who refused to compromise her voice even as the world tried to silence her. Her legacy remains a powerful reminder of the cost of genius and the unyielding strength of the human spirit. Number 4. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin's voice was a gift from the heavens, earning her the title of the Queen of Soul. With songs like Respect and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, she didn't just sing, she commanded the hearts of millions. But behind her legendary talent and regal stage presence was a life marked by hidden pain, family drama, and unspoken struggles. Born in Memphis in 1942, Aretha's life was shaped by both music and tragedy. Her father, the famous preacher C.L. Franklin, was a larger-than-life figure whose sermons drew massive crowds. Yet the Franklin household was far from harmonious. Her parents separated when she was just 6, and her mother died shortly after. The loss left an unfillable void in Aretha's heart. By the time she was 12, Aretha was already a mother, giving birth to her first son. She had her second child just 2 years later. The identity of the fathers remained a mystery for years, sparking rumors and judgment. Despite her challenges, Aretha pursued her passion for music, honing her skills in her father's church before signing her first record deal at just 18. Her rise to fame wasn't without personal turmoil. Aretha endured an abusive first marriage to Ted White, who was also her manager, while battling self-doubt and pressure from the male-dominated music industry. As her fame grew, so did her health issues, including struggles with her weight and chain smoking, which she kept hidden from the public eye. In her final years, Aretha waged a private battle with pancreatic cancer. Even as her health deteriorated, she continued to perform, refusing to let her pain overshadow her passion. She passed away in 2018, leaving behind a towering legacy, but also unanswered questions about her complex life. Aretha Franklin's story is one of triumph over adversity, a woman who turned her struggles into soul-stirring music that will live forever. Behind the crown of the Queen of Soul was a human story filled with courage, heartbreak, and resilience. Number 3. Hattie McDaniel. Hattie McDaniel made history in 1940 as the first black actor to win an Academy Award for her unforgettable role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind. But beneath the glitz of that historic night was a story of relentless racism, heartbreaking sacrifices, and dreams that Hollywood refused to let her fully achieve. Even as she held her Oscar, the moment wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. Hattie was forced to sit at a segregated table in the back of the awards ceremony, away from her co-stars, because the venue didn't allow black guests. Can you imagine winning the biggest honor in your industry, but being told you didn't belong in the room? Her success came at a steep price. While Hattie's role in Gone with the Wind made her a household name, it also subjected her to criticism from the black community for portraying stereotypical characters. She famously responded, "I'd rather make $700 a week playing a maid than earn $7 a week being one." But Hollywood's racism didn't stop at typecasting. When Hattie passed away in 1952, she requested to be buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Even in death, she was denied. The cemetery refused her because of her race. It wasn't until 1999 that a memorial was erected there in her honor. Hattie's story is a haunting reminder of the barriers she broke and the ones that tried to break her. Number 2. Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman is one of Hollywood's most respected actors, with a voice and presence that feels larger than life. From The Shawshank Redemption to Bruce Almighty, his performances have made him a household name. But behind the calm, commanding exterior lies a life marked by heartbreak, scandal, and personal tragedy that few truly know about. Born in 1937 in Memphis, Tennessee, Morgan grew up in poverty, raised by his grandmother after his parents' turbulent marriage fell apart. Despite the hardships, Morgan's love for acting was clear from a young age, but his road to fame was anything but easy. It wasn't until his 50s that he became a Hollywood star, a late start that came after years of struggling to make ends meet. As his career soared, Morgan faced personal trials that would shake anyone to their core. In 2008, he was in a near-fatal car accident, leaving him with severe nerve damage in his left hand, which he still wears a compression glove for to this day. Even more devastating, his step-granddaughter, Edana Hines, was murdered in 2015, a shocking crime that sent ripples through his family and fans. Freeman's personal life has also been marred by controversy, including accusations of inappropriate behavior that tarnished his public image. Though he denied the claims, the allegations brought an unwanted spotlight to his private life. Morgan Freeman's journey is a testament to resilience. Despite immense personal challenges, he has remained an icon of talent and perseverance. Yet his story is a reminder that even those who appear larger than life carry unseen burdens that can weigh them down. Number 1. Lena Horne. Lena Horne was a vision of elegance and talent, a trailblazing actress and singer who captivated audiences with her beauty and voice. With hits like Stormy Weather and roles in films such as Cabin in the Sky, she became one of Hollywood's first black stars. But Lena's life was far from the picture of glamour her fans saw on screen. Behind the scenes, she waged a lifelong battle against racism, injustice, and personal heartbreak. Born in Brooklyn in 1917, Lena entered show business at a young age, performing at the iconic Cotton Club. But the opportunities for black performers were limited. Despite her extraordinary talent, she was often cast as little more than decoration in Hollywood films. Her scenes were deliberately shot so they could be cut when the movies were shown in southern states. Lena's activism made her a target during the McCarthy era. Her ties to civil rights leaders like Paul Robeson and her refusal to perform for segregated audiences led to her being blacklisted in the 1950s, nearly ending her career. Even as she fought for equality, she endured discrimination from the very industry she was trying to change. Her personal life was no less turbulent. She suffered through the loss of her husband, filmmaker Lenny Hayton, and the untimely death of her son. The weight of these tragedies and the constant fight for acceptance left her emotionally scarred. If you think these struggles were intense, wait until you hear about the extreme racism faced by 20 famous black stars in Hollywood. These stories will leave you shocked and questioning how such blatant discrimination was allowed to persist in the spotlight. From denied opportunities to public humiliation, the fight for equality in the entertainment industry is far from over. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now to uncover these jaw-dropping stories of resilience, resistance, and triumph in the face of adversity. You won't believe what some of these stars endured. Don't miss it.